Most people who are watching this video have been told to save as much as possible into their 401k or other pre-tax retirement accounts. And for many people, that's pretty good advice. This has been the story for many years, with most experts claiming that in retirement, taxes will be lower than when you're working. So you should probably defer paying that income tax. This, for most people, including most of the people watching the video, just isn't true. For many people, blindly saving pre-tax dollars isn't always the best default. In fact, there are several hidden challenges that can create stress, limit flexibility, or even increase taxes later in life. However, there are some key indicators that may tell you that you may need to make a change, and there are some solutions to help solve these problems. So stick around to watch the video to hear them. I'm your host, Eli Freeman, a certified financial planner, and this is Data Brief, where we break down the data behind investing so that you can make better decisions based on facts and not feelings. As always, let's look at the data. Now, the first problem in only saving in a 401k pre-tax account is accessing those pre-tax accounts before you're 59 and a half years old. If withdrawals aren't structured correctly, you may not only owe income tax, but also a 10% penalty on all distributions. Exceptions do exist to this rule, such as the Rule of 55 or 72T distributions, and there are some provisions for disability, but each requires careful planning and attention to detail. If someone is planning to retire early, maybe like someone who could be watching a YouTube video about retirement, then having all of your money in a 401k can likely be more restrictive than what you need. Because, like I said earlier, the general advice is to save everything in pre-tax accounts because your income will decline in retirement. But think that statement through with me. Say you are earning $200,000 and planning to live off of a similar income in retirement. Then you would need to distribute close to $200,000 to maintain your lifestyle. And so you would likely still be in the same tax bracket. And yes, I know there are exceptions to this, but you can kind of get the point with me. However, most of the retirees I work with don't spend less in retirement. In fact, they actually spend more. That's because they have more time to enjoy what spending can provide for them. Trips, hobbies, and donations can often increase in retirement, and so spending increases alongside. If everything is saved in a pre-tax account, you may find yourself in higher brackets in retirement if you want to spend more. To see how saving in different accounts can benefit your tax bill, watch my last video that breaks down a scenario where the retiree's income came from multiple sources and not just one account. One of the next problems that can be caused from high amounts in pre-tax accounts is increased healthcare costs. Healthcare costs before Medicare at age 65 can be a major expense. In fact, for most people, it can be the largest expense. ACA subsidies exist and can be significant if income stays below 400% of the federal poverty level. For single filers, this is between $15,000 and $60,000, and for married couples, that's $31,000 to $124,000. Withdrawals from pre-tax accounts count as income that contributes to your modified adjusted gross income, which means relying solely on 401ks or IRAs can quickly push income over these thresholds, eliminating subsidies and increasing premiums by thousands of dollars per month. We work with many people who are managing their income to stay beneath those limits so that their income can qualify for subsidies. The important note here is subsidies are based on income and not your net worth. So if you can maintain low amounts of income, then you can likely find yourself paying cheaper health costs. If you think about that in a more abstract way, by saving in only pre-tax accounts, you could still be in the same tax bracket and you're increasing your health cost, which is actually just like its own form of tax. So you could be paying a higher total effective rate than your working tax because all accounts are pre-tax. Effective rate in this instance is the total cost of tax plus the subsidized healthcare cost that you missed divided by the amount of income that is needed. Third, once Medicare begins, income determines your premium cost through IRMAA, which stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. Retirees with large pre-tax balances may be forced to withdraw significant sums for living expenses, pushing their income higher and triggering both income taxes and Medicare surcharges. This creates a double penalty for those who haven't diversified their account structure outside of only pre-tax accounts. This is especially true of those who have saved significantly and have high pension income and Social Security. I have seen individuals who have $80,000 of pension and another $40,000 to $60,000 of Social Security. And if that's the case, you need more distributions from your IRAs, then you're quickly flirting with IRMAA brackets. To save me the mouthful of describing these brackets, just Google IRMAA brackets to see the income amounts that are applicable. On top of this, my fourth problem plays right into the IRMAA troubles. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, are unavoidable. Whether you need distributions or not, the IRS mandates withdrawals from 401ks and IRAs, and large balances can force retirees into higher tax brackets and IRMAA tiers. This is why accumulating too heavily in pre-tax accounts can create a lack of flexibility later in life. But there are strategies to help mitigate some of these issues. The RMD amounts start at age 73 or 75, depending on when you were born, and start at roughly 4% of your account value. By the time you're 85 years old, that number is closer to 6%. So let's assume that someone has $2 million saved in a retirement account at 65, and they earn a 5% return and didn't need distributions, which I know is not a great example, but bear with me. At the age of 85, they would have around $5.3 million. And a 6% distribution would require them to distribute roughly $265,000. And finally, my last point of this video is if you are married, there is a survivor consideration when you're saving. If one spouse passes away, your required distributions continue, but the surviving spouse loses the married filing jointly tax benefits. Their tax brackets are effectively cut in half or just decreased significantly, and IRMAA thresholds also come down. This makes pre-tax accounts a potential lifelong tax trap for the survivor if planning isn't done in advance. So, I've listed quite a few problems that can be created if all or most of your savings are in pre-tax accounts. That said, if you are a high earner or have already built significant pre-tax savings, there are a few ways to address these challenges. The first of which is to consider diversifying where you save, not just how much you save. Roth accounts and taxable brokerage accounts create flexibility because withdrawals can be made with minimal tax consequences. I've actually done a video on brokerage accounts and will link that video below. I believe they are heavily underutilized in most people's financial journeys and should not be forgotten about. There's another content creator I really like named Ari at Early Retirement Ari on YouTube who calls these brokerage accounts his superhero accounts. And I kind of like that name for it. They do more than you would anticipate when building financial plans for individuals. If managed tax efficiently, they don't create a major tax burden, but they can provide a lot of flexibility to your income as long as the account isn't massively large. The second planning opportunity is to consider intentionally maximizing your current tax brackets while you're working or even in retirement. Roth conversions allow you to move money from pre-tax accounts while taxes are relatively low, building multiple income buckets that provide flexibility later and reduce forced taxable distributions. For most people who have large pre-tax savings of $1 million or more, you'll likely find yourself in the 22% bracket and potentially in the 24% bracket in retirement. If you're working, you could consider converting some money in those tax brackets, 22 or 24, in hopes that instead of staying in that bracket for your entire life, you might actually find yourself able to manage your income down into something like the 12% tax bracket. This also shields you from future tax rate increases and the spousal events that I talked about earlier. The third opportunity for those who have saved in 401ks or IRAs is for those individuals who are charitably inclined. Qualified charitable distributions allow you to give directly to a charity from your pre-tax accounts, and it counts towards your required distributions, and it skips tax on the withdrawal. You're allowed to give out of your IRA at 70 and a half years old. And in fact, when I'm performing Roth conversion plans for individuals, I will always ask if you are charitably inclined. This is because I don't want to fully convert a pre-tax account and pay the taxes on it when I could leave some money in your IRA that will essentially just be your giving account from age 70 and a half years until the rest of your life. This way, we can skip tax on that specific money and give the dollars to church or charity in an efficient manner. In short, blindly maxing out your 401k may work for some individuals, but for those high earners and those who have started saving early, a thoughtful, diversified strategy can provide much more flexibility, reduce surprise taxes and Medicare penalties, protect healthcare subsidies, and even create opportunities for charitable giving. Understanding the rules and planning distributions carefully is as important as the contributions themselves, and working with someone knowledgeable can help make sure every dollar you save works optimally for your future. Thank you for joining us on this data brief. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in 2 weeks.